The Ripple case is officially over, and while everyone is focusing on XRP, which is important, the bigger picture is being overlooked. The Ripple effect is about to hit XLM and XDC. These three coins have been closely correlated for the past couple of years, and if XRP is set to explode, XLM and XDC will not be far behind. So let's go more into this, break down the correlation, and also talk about why an XRP ETF is closer than ever. So if you hold these tokens or just enjoy watching these videos, be sure to leave a like down below. And with that said, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so a quick reminder for every video that we make that this is not financial advice and for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in cryptocurrency is guaranteed and you could lose all of your money. Stay safe and do your own research. Now, just before we get into the video, if you hold XRP, XDC, and XLM, security should be your top priority. We've seen exchange hacks, people lose their assets overnight. You need a cold storage wallet. And one I always use is a decent hardware cold wallet. Right? Having one of these puts you back in control, and only you are in control of your assets. And what I like about Decent compared to other wallets is biometric authentication. You verify and scan with just your finger. You do not have to remember a 10-digit code every single time you need to log in. And XRP, XLM, and XDC are supported along with the coins within their ecosystem like XRC20 tokens for XDC and 3,000 plus other tokens. Right now, there's a special discount going on down below, $30 off in the description. If you're serious about protecting your cryptocurrency, go and check it out down below. Moving on to the video, now we have the case is over. The obvious point, regulatory clarity. Now we have XRP not being officially a security. This is going to spill over to other utility-driven assets like XLM and XDC. Regulators are going to have a hard time lumping in these tokens with these speculative security cases. And the lawsuit was a cloud over XRP for years, preventing major financial institutions from fully embracing it. Now we're going to see banks, payment processors, and more remittance providers integrate with XRP. That signals institutional confidence, and we're also going to see that on the ETF side of things. Now, we spoke about this before in a couple of recent videos. Far side investors, thanks showing the volumes of each asset manager. We can see BlackRock, Fidelity, and ARK have the highest inflows for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they are the only ones that have not filed yet. And after the case being over, odds skyrocketed to 84%. And I trust this site more than any other polls out there because people are betting real money behind this. And as you know, with these things, there's always insiders who know more than we do. So I expect a ripple effect, no pun intended, to take place where liquidity is going to spill over from XRP into XLM and XDC. We've seen this happen so many times before. Obviously, the recent rally in Q4 of 2024. Also in 2023, the verdict against XRP not being a security, and even to the downside, right back in December 2020 when the case was brought against Ripple. So we can see clear correlation to the upside and the downside. And during this period, we can see other coins like ADA Cardano in December actually increase. So this was not a coincidence at all. So now moving on to why liquidity from XRP flows into these assets. Well, there's a lot of reasons why. People look for low cap, undervalued alternatives when a certain crypto increases, and they're all utility driven assets rather than speculative plays. When it comes to XLM and XRP, we know that Jed McCaleb, co-founded Ripple, left to create Stellar. They're both in cross-border payments, remittances. In terms of XDC, it has an institutional focus like XRP, right, focusing on trade finance and real-world asset tokenization. Now, are these cryptos undervalued compared to XRP? I do believe so. But if we go to the previous cycle, which isn't a perfect comparison because it was XDC's first cycle, which was like, $3, 4, 5 million market cap. A perfect comparison would be comparing them to obviously XRP in 2017, XLM in 2017. But I think it's still important because we can see that they performed by XDC the best, XLM second, and XRP third. Well, currently we have the opposite. XRP is doing the best, XLM, and then XDC at 2x. So unless we are in a bear market, these cryptos have a lot of catching up to do. And through that, we will see a price spike, and I am ready for it. Right? Just comparing to all-time high, how far away we are, XRP is 1.56x away, XLM is 3.3x away, and XDC is 2.7x away. And so much has changed for these projects in terms of utility and fundamentals from those dates to the upside. But with XLM, we can see they're now the world's largest crypto to cash infrastructure, beating Bitcoin in off ramp locations by 3x and dominating globally, not just in North America. We have XDC partnering with Archax, a leader in digital assets, upgrading our TPS to 2000, ready for institutions, and positioning themselves in a market that is set to reach 30 trillion by 2034. And finally, XRP, that is now trusted by institutions. They're recommending it to their clients and seen as a long-term hold, especially with the case just ended. So it's safe to say if the market conditions are correct, these cryptos will definitely outperform their previous all-time highs. And an institutional wave is coming. Here's a little clip of Brad Garlinghouse going into the stockpile with XRP.
Why do you think XRP wasn't specifically named in the executive order for the digital asset stockpile?
Well, so XRP was named by the president on Truth Social. He posted something saying that there should be other tokens, that there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve and then a crypto stockpile that would include things like XRP.
Days later, the executive order didn't include it. Why was that?
I don't know what specifically was in the executive order. My understanding is there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. There'll be a crypto stockpile representing other cryptos. And I would expect that will include XRP.
So the key highlight from that interview is that he understands there will be a crypto stockpile and XRP will be included. Now it's very important when you think about the whales. We spoke about in a previous video that whales are currently accumulating, or they're at least holding strong with their holdings. And XRP whales with the digital asset stockpile, with the new ETFs in play, they could adopt the mindset of the Bitcoin whales of never selling and holding forever. Not to say that the Bitcoin whales never sell, that they never take profit, but higher highs are made every single cycle. So for XRP, we could see a new low being created of $1 per XRP, than rather going down to 30, 40, 50 cents every single cycle. And a huge misconception about XRP is the supply. Here we can see panel states that all the XRP that will ever exist has been in circulation since day one, and there is no inflation. And back in 2012, 100 billion XRP was created, a lot of which was used for airdrops, giveaways, but it was hurting the price, so it was put into escrow. That is not being included in the circulating supply by coin market cap. If it was, XRP would be the second most high valued crypto asset in terms of market cap, above Ethereum and just behind Bitcoin. That is where it should be. That's going to be pretty much it for today's video. You know, XRP in terms of the ETFs, we know that XLM and XDC follow the price, good or bad, to the upside or the downside. I do believe outside of Solana, XRP will probably be the only ETF to actually attract assets under management. I think the rest will fail to do that and actually cost issuers money, especially for the near term, right, over the next couple of years. So as you trickle down, it's going to be less and less and less and less demand. I do think XRP will have a Bitcoin-like performance, and obviously these cryptocurrencies will follow. But that is going to be pretty much it for today's video. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Look, at the end of the day, I think the stark contrast is in the Biden administration, we couldn't get a meeting with people at the White House. Now we're welcomed into the White House. And that's just a massive change. I think we want this industry to thrive in the United States. We don't want to push it offshore where you have fewer regulations.
I think the reason I keep pushing you too is because I think now it's widely accepted that this is a pro-crypto administration. But the details, that is what's causing an overhang, the uncertainty of the details. So to the extent you have confidence, right, about XRP being in that stockpile or otherwise getting more support for an ETF, for example, where does that confidence come from and what kind of timeline do you see it happening on?
So I have immense confidence on the ETF. I think there's 11 different filings pending with the SEC to launch ETFs, from everybody from Bitwise to Franklin Templeton and a whole bunch of people in between. I think those will be live in the second half of this year. We have seen, even outside the United States, you have live ETPs. And at a time when a lot of outflows are exiting some of the crypto ETFs, you're seeing inflows into XRP. And I think that's because you had this false negative pressure from the SEC, this kind of, an exogenous hand holding things down that's now being released. And that's great for the market. It's great for builders within the XRP ecosystem globally.
One more on the stockpile.
Yeah.
How much XRP would be in it? Where does it come from?
Well, my understanding of what I read about I think there are some questions, and that the devil may be in the details as Treasury implements some of this.
Absolutely in the details.
But my understanding is that the stockpile will be represented by seized other cryptos other than Bitcoin that then will be in that stockpile. So to the extent that various law enforcement agencies have seized cryptos, which would include XRP, that those would go into the stockpile in addition to the Bitcoin strategic reserve. That's my understanding.